The desk lamp cast a harsh, yellow pool of light over the empty surface. Mark sat motionless, staring at the stack of unread books that had sat there for weeks.
Dust motes drifted through the glow, settling on the untouched spines. He let out a long, ragged sigh that rattled in his chest. His gaze drifted to his phone, resting inches away from his hand. The screen glowed with an invitation to nowhere. He picked it up, his thumb beginning the familiar, rhythmic scroll that dissolved the next 2 hours into a blur of digital noise. The goal of writing felt like a ghost, hovering just out of reach in the dark corners of the room. He reached for a pen, gripped it, then set it back down. The weight of the silence in the apartment was heavy, punctuated only by the soft click of his phone screen. He looked at the empty notebook, then back at the phone. The cycle held him fast, pinning him to the couch, turning his ambition into nothing more than a fading thought before sleep. Tuesday arrived with the same heavy silence, but Mark shifted his routine. He took a notebook from the shelf and placed it directly onto his pillow. It was a small, physical barrier against the night. He sat on the edge of the bed, opened the cover, and forced his hand to form a single, coherent sentence. The ink looked stark against the white page. He closed the book and slept. The next night, he wrote 2 sentences, then 3. By the end of the month, the hesitation that used to paralyze his wrist had vanished. The pen felt like an extension of his own hand. He stopped looking at the wall and started looking at the page. As he clicked the pen, he whispered the words, "I am a writer." It was not a wish anymore. It was a fact he recorded in ink. The identity shift took hold not through grand announcements, but through the quiet, steady accumulation of words. He felt the shift in his own posture, a new sense of purpose as he stood up to pace the room. The ghost of his ambition was finally taking shape in his own hands. Mark looked at his phone, then at the kitchen. He walked over, opened the drawer, and dropped the device inside, shutting it firmly. The silence in the room changed. He placed a clear water bottle on the corner of his desk, the condensation glistening in the light. He needed to hydrate, so he made the water the first thing he reached for. Next, he turned to the chores that usually drained his focus. He put on his favorite jazz record, letting the brass and rhythm fill the air while he tidied the room. The music turned a tedious task into a ritual. He moved with a new rhythm, clearing the clutter, organizing his pens, and setting the notebook in the center of the desk. Every object now served a purpose. The kitchen drawer held his distraction. The jazz record fueled his movement. The water bottle anchored his focus. He stepped back and surveyed the space. The apartment was no longer a place of aimless wandering, but a machine built for one output. He had curated his environment to demand his attention, leaving no room for the old habits to take root. He sat down, clicked his pen, and opened the page. Mark finished the final paragraph and set his pen down. He did not look at the clock or reach for his phone. Instead, he walked to the wall where his calendar hung. He took a red marker and drew a bold, clean cross over the square for the day. He stepped back. The row of red marks stretched across the page, a jagged, growing line of progress. Each cross was a physical record of time he had reclaimed. He traced the line with his finger, feeling the weight of the streak. The next day, he found himself sitting down to write even when his energy flagged, simply because he could not bear to leave a gap in the sequence. The chain demanded to be fed. It was no longer about the quality of the sentences or the depth of the plot. It was about the presence of the mark. He felt a sharp, rising tension whenever he considered missing a day. The calendar had become a mirror of his own discipline. He looked at the growing chain, then back at his notebook. The fear of breaking the streak was now stronger than the urge to quit. He knew he had to keep going. He had to keep the line unbroken. Mark lifted his notebook from the desk. It felt heavy in his hands, not just from the paper, but from the dense, dark ink lining every page. He flipped through the stack, watching the words blur into a solid,
black mass. He had spent months waiting for a grand breakthrough, a sudden flash of brilliance that would change everything. Instead, he found a system. Each day had added a single, quiet layer to the foundation of his life. The couch across the room remained empty, gathering dust, yet his desk overflowed with progress. He realized he was not chasing a singular, massive victory. He was building a relentless, daily rhythm. 1% improvement, repeated until the change became his new reality. He clicked his pen, set the notebook down, and looked at the calendar one last time. The chain of crosses was thick, a permanent record of his consistency. Success was not an explosion of fame or a sudden stroke of genius. It was the steady, silent heartbeat of a habit that refused to stop. He sat back, took a deep breath, and watched the ink dry on the page. The cycle was complete, and he was already waiting for tomorrow.